Well, everybody, I said it was a god-tier middleweight motorcycle, and I stand by it. Now, is it as amazing as the Street Fighter V4S? Of course not, but this Aprilia Tuono 660 factory deserves your consideration if you're looking at stuff like, I don't know, MT-07s, R7s, Trident 660s, Street Triple 765, Duke 890s, Monsters, Z900s. There's so many bikes in this kind of zone that this bike occupies, but I really think the Tuono 660 does it better than all of them. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yammy Noob. Today we are doing our first ride and impression of this here Aprilia Tuono 660 factory, baby. Now, quick shout out, I did want to say that this motorcycle is our new intermediate bike giveaway. Yes, I'm giving this motorcycle away. If you head over to shop.yammynoob.co, if you use the code GODTIER, all capital letters, you will get yourself max entries for the month to win this fantastic Aprilia Tuono 660 factory. That's the best deal I can do for you. Otherwise, you can head over to yammynoob.co, become a member, join our amazing Discord server, and start racking up your entries that way. I personally think that is the best way to get entered to win, but if you're just looking to get in a helmet, gear, parts, tires, whatever you're looking at doing, yammynoob.co and shop.yammynoob.co is going to be the best way to do it. Also, big shout out to Eurocycle. We bought this motorcycle from them. They are our preferred dealership, so hit the links down below and check out Eurocycle for your next amazing European motorcycle. They'll sell you Aprilias, BMWs, Ducatis, Triumphs, all that good stuff. Moto Guzzi's even. You may have seen our ride-in review of the V7 Special. And yeah, they're our preferred vendor for motorcycles. They ship it straight to your door as well. So anywhere in the nation, they'll ship it straight to you. Hit the link down below and don't sleep on it. I think we should just get on this bike and get moving. I can tell you guys all about it as we're in motion. There's a lot to talk about, and it is a very fantastic motorcycle. But I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Let's go ahead and put this bad boy into neutral. I've got a lot to say about the gearbox, and also, if only I could find neutral. Wow, look at this, folks. Look at this. Nope. Come on. Nope. First gear. We're just going to start up. I don't care. Maybe once it's warm. Nope. Oh, my goodness. There we go. Finally. Italian bikes. Am I right? Quirkiness. Am I right? 659cc parallel twin with the 270-degree crank, producing 100 horsepower and 49 foot-pounds of the Lord's torque. Let's take a listen, shall we? Very zesty engine. Love to see it, love to see it. Let's feel this bike out in slow speeds, then we'll get it out on the road, and I'll talk you guys through some of the features on this thing, shall we? So the Tuono 660 is the cousin, the sibling, the kind of corollary to the RS660 that Aprilia has created. This is the semi-naked version. I know a lot of people do not think this is a naked motorcycle, but it's their more upright, more street-friendly motorcycle. And that makes stuff like what I'm doing in this parking lot a breeze. Given that I have this upright seating position, you can counterlean this motorcycle, carve yourself some nice tight U-turns. This is a great bike that you can get along with. Throttle feel and clutch feel is really balanced on this thing. So slow speed maneuvers, really quite a breeze on this thing. It's really enjoyable to chuck this thing around in your local parking lot, do yourself some U-turn maneuvers, and practice all your good stuff. But you guys did not come to this channel and this video to see me do parking lot maneuvers, but I do like to cover how a motorcycle operates in slow speeds. The Tuono 660 has the same rear brake as the RS660, but it does not squeak as much as the RS660, so that's nice when you're doing those slow speed stuffs. Now, pulling out onto the road here, I'm in first gear, and you'll notice that I can shift up without the use of a clutch. That is because this motorcycle is equipped with a quick shifter up and down, which is a really nice feature on this bike. Not something you see on all the middleweight motorcycles, but a lot of them have it nowadays. But, you know, that's why it's kind of a cut above the MT-07s, Trident 660s, and those motorcycles. But you'll also notice that I'm in fourth gear right now. I can close the throttle, select down into third, select down into second. That's because I also have auto blipped out. Now, you will notice that I am in challenge mode. And I wanted to start this video off in a way talking about the electronics package on this machine. Comes with the 6-axis IMU, cornering ABS, a bunch of different rider modes, wheelie control, traction control, engine management, all the goodies that you would expect in a modern motorcycle. However, Aprilia has done a gigantically stupid move in making what is possibly the most unintuitive rider system I have ever come across. You have to do some combination of button holding and button pressing, of which there is no indication on what these buttons do. This one just has a square with a white square in the middle of it. What is that? I don't know. The cruise control is also controlling the APRC, the electronics that you see down here. So if you press that up and down, that changes that. Apparently in challenge mode, I can't use the cruise control. So one of my down points of this bike, I don't want to start it off on a downer, but one of my down points on this thing is the fiddly electronics. I'm sure once you popped out the owner's manual and really kind of looked into the tomes of Aprilia knowledge, you would figure out all this stuff pretty easily. But as a rider who enjoys jumping on a motorcycle and just trying it out, I'm a little frustrated, a little disappointed with this machine from the get-go in that respect. But the chassis, the frame, the handling, the engine is also very good on this thing, that it definitely warrants further exploration. I will not count this bike out just merely for its electronics package. Now, what do you guys say we actually get around this guy here? He's going a little bit slow for my taste. Rolling on the power on the Aprilia, one of the things you notice on this bike is it has kind of a kinked power band. It's the same as the RS660, where to actually get the juice out of this bike, you got to rev it out a little bit, which is a little different than parallel twins that we're used to, but that's the nature of the engines, right? Like if you have 660 cc's of displacement, you either make a lot of top-end power or you make low-end grunt and torque. You know, bikes like the MT-07, they've definitely prioritized the low-end grunt and torque, but this motorcycle, you gotta ring it out a little bit, which is fun because you get to use it. You see, in fourth gear, I wind it on, nothing, nothing, nothing. Now we're starting to get cooking. And that's just the nature of how this engine operates. It's definitely a grower, not a shower. It's a motorcycle you have to rev a little bit, which you wouldn't expect out of a P-twin. But there's definitely just a bit of a dip in power in the middle of the RPMs. I really don't think it's that bad. A lot of people online seem to have a lot of qualms with it and they don't really like it. But I think that the power band is actually pretty good. I'll show you guys here as I take off from this light. First gear, going to about 5,000 RPM, short shifting in a third. I think it's got plenty of juice down low. It's only when you start twisting the throttle a lot that you notice that it's not really communicating a lot more torque that you would expect. It's not as linear as I'd like. It's kind of scoops in the power band. But overall, I do think this is a very complete and nice engine. Really, really great power characteristics. And given this bike's 390-pound curb weight, 399-pound curb weight, excuse me, that gives it a super peppy, fun feeling. It's a very youthful motorcycle, which I really appreciate. There's a lot of middleweight bikes that just feel really serious. The Triumph Speed Triple, or excuse me, the Street Triple 765 is one of those motorcycles. It just feels a little bit too serious. Rolling through some twisties here on the Aprilia, and this is where this bike starts to really shine. You've got a motor here that's just really willing, really peppy, really playful for the street. And again, it's in this Goldilocks zone in that I feel like I'm using a good amount of this motorcycle. Am I near the limit? Of course not, guys. I'm on the street. I'm nowhere close to what this motorcycle can actually do, which is why I'm going to take it out on track, because this is the factory version with the updated suspension, which is really cool. Now, rolling through these twisties here on this motorcycle, trailing it in our brakes here a little bit, feeling it on the side of the tire. It's incredibly sure-footed, incredibly balanced. As we flick it here from left to right, really, really nice. Nothing weird about it. Very, very balanced in terms of its weight. And the power that's provided in this chassis feels adequate. It feels matched. It doesn't feel like something like a ZH2 that's just all out of whack. Just way too much power, not enough frame, or too much frame and not enough power like a Buell XB9. This motorcycle is just really well aligned with all of its goals and what it's trying to do here, and that I really like. Throttle feel is really good. It's actually a little bit different than the Aprilia Tuono V4 in that the throttle is not as springy. It's a weird thing to explain, but on the Aprilia Tuono V4, the throttle feel was a little herky-jerky because of how much force you had to actually actuate on the throttle. Whereas this motorcycle has a really nice linear throttle tube, really nice ability to roll on that throttle, and really predictable too. On-off throttle feels great on this thing as well. Now we'll try the brakes out here a little bit, just kind of feathering them, trailing it a little bit, just feeling out how that feels on the side of the tire, and it's really nice. It's being pinched by Brembo calipers, feels really, really good. And the big thing about this motorcycle versus stuff like the MC07s, Z650s, is it has a twin spar aluminum frame. That's a big deal, you know? If you're looking at trellis frame motorcycles or just kind of steel tube, they're fine. They can work really well. The R7 proves that, but there's something about an aluminum twin spar frame that just feels absolute money. And this bike feels absolute money. Feels really, really good. The seat height's about 32 inches, and I gotta say, I'm a guy who's about 5'11". I've got a 32-inch inseam. I've never really had any issue fitting on motorcycles. And this bike actually seats a little bit more narrow and smaller than you would expect. It's a very narrow motorcycle when you're sitting on it like this. It doesn't feel like a bike that is gonna be too big. It actually feels like a very svelte, small motorcycle. So I think if you're between 5'8" and 6 foot, this is going to fit you really, really well. I think if you're above 6 foot, maybe 6'2", 6'3", you might end up feeling a little bit cramped. And I think if you're under 5'6" or something like that, you might find this bike a little bit not that approachable because of the seat height. However, it is still completely rideable. I don't want you shorter kings out there to feel that you cannot ride this motorcycle, because you absolutely can. So I really like the seating position on it. Love the way the rider triangle works for me. It's very comfortable. You could spend ample time on this motorcycle and not really feel it. This is a bike that, for you guys out there that want to do a big 4 or 5 hour ride all through the canyons up to some mountain and stuff like that, this is a great companion for that. This motorcycle is very comfortable for that sort of ride. There's a really premium feel to the Aprilia Tuono 660 that you just wouldn't really get on an MC07 or those sorts of motorcycles. You have to price up to a Street Triple, to a Duke 890 to get this kind of feel. And I get it, you know, this motorcycle clocks in a little over $11,000 if I remember correctly, and that's a lot of money. And you know, you look at an MT09 and you're like, well, it's less money and it's more power, but you can't just think about the power for these motorcycles. It's about the feeling of riding them. It's about how they perform. It's about what you're being communicated to by the machine, the lightweightness of it, the kind of overall package. And I think the Tuono 660 is a ball of a motorcycle to ride. It's got tons of fun factor, which is something that you can't really say for other kind of 450-pound naked bikes. They're a little more serious, they're a little more leery to ride. The 660 here is really enjoyable and really playful. All I want to do with this thing is just back it into corners and just flick it over from left to right. I think it's going to be really, really fun on track. Speaking of track work, the Aprilia Tuono 660 factory, as the name implies, has the updated KYB forks up at the front, fully adjustable for rebound, compression, and preload. And out back, you got a Sachs unit with a remote reservoir that's adjustable for all three parameters as well: rebound, compression, and preload. That's a nice upgrade over the RS660 that had the in-house Aprilia suspension that just had rebound adjustability. You're getting now compression, preload, and rebound, which means you have a fully adjustable set of suspension on this bike. That's a really great feature, especially for a motorcycle that's ostensibly meant to go out on track a bunch. You want to be able to dial it into your preferences, make sure you've got the bike pitching back in the way you want, damping in the way you want, making sure that it's set correctly. But truthfully, I do find the Aprilia Tuono 660 to be very competent, even without that kind of updated suspension. I think it's cool that they added it, but you know, I don't think that it really needed it necessarily, because the RS660 had that base suspension, and that was a ton of fun out on track. And even someone like me, who is a grade track day rider, club racer kind of bro, able to put a bike, you know, decently through its paces. I'm not a racer by any means, but you know, it felt really, really nice to me. And so this is just taking it to that next level, which is really cool. But I love the look out of the dash here, man. I love seeing the red in between the little mini winglets over here, the Aprilia logos, the 54 titles, which, what a bummer that Aleix could not clinch it to be the 55 stickers that we were all promised, but, you know, it is what it is. Now, let's get some highway impressions, shall we? Clicking it up through the gears here. Just took a huge bug to the face. Really nice power on the Aprilia. Really nice power on it. That extra sprocket up at the front, they dropped the tooth on the front sprocket, gives it a really nice peppy flavor for the acceleration. I actually feel that over the RS660 we had last year. This thing actually does feel a little zestier, which is a ton of fun. That's fun. I mean, how often is it that you can rip through 4 gears on a motorcycle on the street? And that's what I mean about it being this Goldilocks zone bike, man. I really think that Tuono 660 strikes such a nice balance, dude. Like, you can use this bike all day, every day. It can totally be your commuter motorcycle. But at the same time, if you want to flip it on its head a little bit and have some fun with it, you can, you know? And that dual nature is really appealing to a lot of people. And the amount of power on tap here is not so much that you're gonna get completely out of sorts, but it's also not so much that you're gonna get out of sorts, you know what I mean? You're not gonna be going down to twisties and just rocket ship yourself forward to the next corner. This has enough ample broad power to keep you entertained, but not too much so that you're gonna get yourself out of hand. If you're a kind of intermediate rider, it's your second motorcycle, you're jumping up in power levels, this is a really adequate place to be. In terms of the competition, I mean, I think if you're looking at MT-07s, Z650s, and those sorts of machines, I think this bike is just simply a cut above. Really, this thing fights against street triples and MT-09s and those sort of bikes. And I don't know, like, yeah, those bikes make a ton more torque and power. I mean, I think the MT-09 nowadays makes like 68 foot-pounds of torque and 118 horsepower or something like that. So, you know, a good 30% more torque, and it's an MT-09, so it's just making that juicy torque. But I don't know, like, I've ridden the street triples, MT-09s, all that stuff. This bike has a little something different, a little je ne sais quoi about it. It's such an interesting little motorcycle to ride. I do think it's hampered a bit by this ridiculously unintuitive electronics suite. I'm currently stuck in challenge mode because I cannot for the life of me figure out how to get back into street, sport, and rain mode and all those other things. It's like a different sub menu that I can't figure out how to get to it, so I just won't be able to get to it. And the gearbox is a little strange, a little Italian quirky for my taste. Neutral is very difficult to find for some reason. It's like trying to find neutral is like trying to find Nemo or something like that. We're gonna go ahead and split this traffic. Don't really feel like waiting. But yeah, overall, the Tuono 660 is a great motorcycle. I would rate it a solid 9.2 out of 10. It is only hampered by its kind of peculiar gearbox and the electronics situation that's a little bit hard to get used to and to understand. But again, if you just spent an afternoon reviewing the owner's manual, you'll probably be able to figure it out. But I don't like how it's not very intuitive. Like, you have to actually really dig deep in the menus and figure out all this stuff about the bike, and that's just not fun, you know? It's not fun to have to figure that out about your motorcycle. It's much more fun to actually just go and ride the thing, as opposed to, you know, getting stuck in the side of the road and figuring out how to get it out of challenge mode. But it makes up for it with its engine, it makes up for it with its ability to delight and to have fun. And I think the changes in the weight and the suspension updates that they've done for this machine make it a solid contender in the middleweight category, and I'm really happy to have it for as long as I'm going to have it while we run this sweepstakes. So guys, that's going to be my first ride impression on the Aprilia. More to come on this machine as I spend more time with it. I will give you guys my thoughts. We're going to be modifying it as well, changing out the exhaust, doing a couple things to it, trying to lighten the weight up a little bit. We're going to be track testing it, of course, but if you guys want to know anything about this machine, leave me a comment down below. If you're considering buying it, let me know as well. But if you don't want to buy it and you get entered for a chance to win it for free, remember, head over to shop.yamanoob.co, enter the code GODTIER, that's all caps, all together, and get yourself max entries for the month and get locked in to win this thing. And of course, the other best way to do it is to go to yamanoob.co and get your entries that way too, and that'll be a great thing for you. We will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks again for watching this video. See you later.
Keep watching